Hey guys, I'm Jack Murphy. I just want to tell you about the sponsor for tonight's podcast. It is Ridge Wallet. You can check it out right here. This thing holds up to 12 cards plus room for cash, comes in over 30 colors, and is made out of carbon fiber and burnt titanium. This wallet has over 50,000 five-star reviews. If you check it out compared to a normal leather wallet, this is much smaller, much slimmer, very helpful if you carry your wallet in the back of your pocket like a lot of men do. And it comes with a lifetime warranty. So I hope you'll go check them out at ridge.com/team to get 40% off of your order. That's ridge.com/team to get 40% off your order, or hit the link right down below. I hope you'll go check them out as you're considering some Christmas gifts this holiday season.
The Team House with your hosts, Jack Murphy and David Park.
You could start off telling us some stories about Bargi Matal in Afghanistan. I believe you were part of a very small group of people that got sent up into, that was really bad guy country, and the terrain just vicious up in that part of Afghanistan.
Yeah, so there were actually 3 FOBs up there, and each FOB, I believe, had roughly about a platoon plus element occupying this FOB. Earlier, a couple months earlier, one of the FOBs had been overrun, and one of the encampments had been overrun, and I think there was a total of 9 casualties. 9 Americans were killed, a lot of Afghanis, of course, Taliban, and so the decision was made to pull out the other outposts, the other 2 outposts that were up there, and one of them was, Bargi Matal, and the way I can so we were asked by U.S. Mill if we could bring our guys in to help support their withdrawal. So what they were going to do is literally in the course of 3 days, they were going to literally take everything out of this camp and extract it. So the camp was in a valley with nothing but high ground all the way around it. And it was, as you point out, it was some really rugged terrain. It kind of reminded me, I remember landing at night one time thinking, man, this feels like the jungles of Panama, very wooded, very humid, very rough terrain, but they were sitting right down in this little tiny valley, man. And the camp was probably 150 meters square, maybe. It was very small. It had one little HLZ in the middle that could support one helicopter landing on it. And that was it. And this platoon had been there for at least a year already, and they got no break, man. They were literally every day in gunfights. They couldn't even leave the wire to go patrol, and they were constantly on defense. They were getting hammered down there. And so the decision was made that we got to pull them out. But they couldn't just bring in helicopters. The guys would load up everything and fly away, because as soon as the helicopters would come in, they would be in contact. So the plan was for us, me and my guys, to fly in. They brought us in. We flew in on some Mi-17s, and we had 2 lifts. We went in. I think it was probably a total of about 30 of us, me and 2 other Americans, and then the rest Afghans. And we flew in the middle of the night, roughly around 10, 11 o'clock at night. Got out, met with the commander, and basically he explained to us what the mission was. Basically, what they wanted us to do was go outside the wire and patrol the area around the base camp, and basically just keep the bad guys back, keep them engaged, so that the soldiers within the camp could load their gear. They were going to bring in some helicopters. They were going to load up. They actually had a Humvee there too. I don't know how they got that there, why they were using it, but they had a Humvee. They were going to take that out. They were just going to load up these aircraft over the course of 3 days and just keep lifting everything else out of the camp. And hopefully within 72 hours, the camp would be evacuated. In the meantime, our job was to just go out there and make contact with the bad guys and keep them back so this operation could take place. Well, I remember that night we arrived, we met with the captain, told him what we're going to go do. We refitted, and then we went out the wire. And we had our mission was to go up the road about maybe 4 or 5 kilometers. There was a madrasa up there, and the Taliban used that as a staging base. Basically, they would link up there, get on their war paint and shit, and then, they would launch their assaults from there. So we were just going to go meet them there at the madrasa and get it on. So as we leave the wire, we're walking up the road. It's relatively dark, and then all of a sudden, the first CH-47 is flying in. It's going to land. They're going to load it, and then it's going to take off with its supply. Well, as the helicopter was coming in a very slow and low hover, there was a Taliban on the other side of the wire with an RPG. And guess what he does? He shoots it down, and it crashes into the fucking camp.
Oh,
and
shit.
so, yeah, onto the only HLZ they got, right? So, bam, it slams into the deck. The round went through the floor of the helicopter. It actually took off the leg of one of the crew chiefs. So now we got a disabled helicopter sitting inside the camp. They can't get it out. They can't do anything with it. They can't bring in more helicopters. Can't medevac the guys out. And then the firefight started. So we turn around and you could just see green tracers coming down from the high ground, red tracers going up, and there's a full-on firefight, man. And so we're standing there going, okay, well, what do we do? Do we try to go back and support them? But then we knew that would be a problem because trying to re-enter, friendly forward lines, we're going to get caught in a crossfire.
Yeah.
There's going to be drama with that, right? So we realized, okay, there's nothing we can do out here. Let the army, let the military, deal with those guys, and then we're going to continue mission. So we go up the road, we make it to the madrasa, and it's a dry hole. There's nothing there. So we're like, okay, let's move it on up, push up at about another 4 kilometers. There's another village up there. Again, we know this is all Taliban country. And so we go up there. As we're crossing the bridge, we get word that we got squatters going out the other side of the village. So anyways, they clear the village, they get away, nothing happens. We come back that morning, the firefight's over, and we refit, regroup, and now we got this issue with this helicopter sitting in the camp. Now what are we going to do? So what was really interesting was, and I didn't know this, but apparently the Army, they have pilots that are specially trained to fly crippled aircraft, right? So what they did is they brought us this one badass pilot, man, and they roped him in, the fast rope, and his job was to go down there and start that aircraft and fly it out of there.
Wow.
Broken hull, man. Yeah, I didn't know that. I was like, damn, this guy's got some balls, man. One guy, man, that's his job, right? And so when they brought him in, they roped him in, and then they brought a bunch of fast movers, came flying in, and basically was strafing the hillsides to keep the bad guys down, while this guy was, turning knobs and pulling levers and cranking this thing up. He actually got it out of there. He actually flew this broken helicopter out of that HLZ. He cleared it up for us. So we decided, okay, the next night we'll continue mission, and we decided, okay, let's go. I forget the direction, but I think it was west. We said we're going to go west. There's a village about 6 kilometers away. We know the Taliban stages out of there also. And so we're just going to go down there and, set up an ambush, knowing they're going to come and hit the camp that night, and we're just going to ambush them. So we take off, and I remember we're walking around this ridge line. It's really steep, man. I mean, really steep. And we're walking on a goat trail that was maybe 18 inches, 24 inches wide. It was real muddy and slippery. There's a lot of water running down, and we're wearing night vision goggles. It's pitch black. There's a lot of trees. And we're cruising along, and then all of a sudden I hear my interpreter behind me fall off the cliff, right? And he and he falls like maybe, I don't know, 20, 25, 30 feet down the side of this cliff, right? And he lands on a little ledge down there, and I could hear him, making, hoofing and puffing sounds and stuff, and I turn around and look down, and I see him, and I see what looks like just his whole face is like black. And the black was actually blood. Right? We wear night vision goggles, so it looked, it was dark black, but it was all blood. And he knocked his teeth out. His teeth were sticking out through his lips, his gums and stuff. And and I looked at his name was HD. We call him HD for Harley Davidson, right? He loved Harley Davidsons, even though he'll never own one. That was his thing, So we always call him HD. I go, HD, you okay? Yes, sir. I'm okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm like, you don't look good. And so we finally we pull him up, and I'm looking at him like, holy shit, dude, you're a mess. And then he begins to explain to me how that was the first night he ever wore night vision goggles. I said, are you kidding me? This is the first time you've been out on operation and you're wearing MVGs on a goat trail? And I'm like, holy shit, man, what were you thinking, dude? And so, anyways, he fell off the cliff because he couldn't see because he didn't know how to use night vision goggles properly. And so we're sitting there, and we had a Navy medic with us, and I bring him back, Corman, and he's kind of patching up, HD. And then while we're sitting there, we're looking with the thermals. We could see, so we're on this ridge line. We could see directly across to another ridge line about 250, 300 meters across from us. And we notice a small fire burning. And so, hold on for a second. Hey, I got my maid in here. She's cleaning and talking to my employees. So anyway, so we see this fire burning, and we're looking and go, okay, that looks really suspicious, man. Well, it turns out it was 12 Taliban, and what they were doing, they were one terrain feature away from the camp. So what they were doing is staging there. What they're going to do is get all spun up and then come around and hit the camp that night from that position. So that was their MSS, basically, their support site. And so anyways, so we call for close air support, and there happens to be I think it was an F-15 on station. He had a couple of JDAMs with him, and he was quite a ways out. You could even hear the aircraft. So we said, hey, this is us. We think we identified Taliban location. We gave him the location. He's looking using his optics, and like I said, he was so far out you couldn't even hear the guy. You had no idea he was on station, but he could actually see. And he's actually counting. He goes, yeah, you got 12 guys, armed AK-47s, weapon systems, blah blah blah. And he's very in detail describing these guys. Like, holy shit. So we're like, all right, well, send them to Allah, man. And so the guy releases a 1,000-pound JDAM, and the time of flight was 45 seconds. And when he released it, he said, yeah, it's en route. We actually lased the target for him. And you never heard the aircraft. You never even heard the JDAM until it went off. And when it went off, all you saw was pieces and parts flying through the air, arms and legs, AK-47. We captured it all on infrared video. And we kind of watched it the next day and reveled over it. But so we did that. And so we're like, okay, a mission accomplished. We don't need to go all the way to the village. We go back. And then the next day, these guys got the ass, I guess, decided it was time for some payback. So they come rolling around there again, some more of them. And there happened to be an LPOP up on the high ground, and a bunch of privates up there with M240, 249s, and they just unleashed and killed another 12 in broad daylight coming around there. So we smoked quite a few guys in a couple of days we were there. And we ended up, getting everybody out, every last man out, get all the equipment out, and was able to withdraw within the 72 hours anyways, in spite of a shot down helicopter in the compound. So, but it was really, looking back at that, it's like, man, these guys were living hardcore, little poncho hooches for a year, sleeping in the mud. They had no Wi-Fi, no TV. They had nothing, man. They were living in really rough field conditions for a year, and they're fighting it out every day. And I'm like, man, that's some hardcore shit there. But glad to get them out of there because, man, they were taking a beating, and they were pretty much combat ineffective. They couldn't leave the wire. They're just sitting ducks, and getting pock shots at them. So, but that was an interesting mission. It was a lot of fun. Went pretty fast, and we got her done and got everybody out of there. So, unfortunately, the other camp. We didn't deal with the other camp, but the first camp, they took some serious casualties up there. I remember when that firefight happened, it was a big deal. And these three FOBs were the northernmost U.S. mil camps in Afghanistan. There was nothing else up there. I mean, they were way out there too. I mean, really tough terrain to get to. Like I said, the helicopter is the only way you get in and out of there. And they shot down the one helicopter into the HLs. It could have been worse, man. Yeah. I could just imagine had this thing, disintegrated in the compound, maybe, killed a bunch of men or something, and hit fuel dumps. It could have been a disaster, man. But it all worked out. Like I said, I was really impressed with the pilot. I didn't know they had guys like that. It's like that guy's got a pair of balls like a bull, man.
Yeah.
You're gonna come in there and you're gonna rope him in at night, and then he's gonna get in the cockpit and start pushing buttons and pulling levers and praying to God this thing fucking flies out of there, And he did it, man. He actually did it. So pretty cool.
Dale, that's actually, you mentioned these FOBs, and that's something. And for those of you who don't know, it's just a forward operating base. It's, a little camp out in the middle of nowhere generally. But, we've talked about how special ops is really, everybody loves the sexy mission of special ops, but these conventional forces were out there, like at these remote places or on these long patrols, mixing it up all the time. And they really don't get the credit that they deserve.
No, it's true, man. That's true. I was up in the Korengal also, and so you had a bunch of FOBs in that area. Same thing. Those guys were just getting pounded every day, man. Korengal was regarded as the most dangerous place on the planet at that time, and it wasn't if you're going to get in contact. It was when and how bad. But if you go up into Korengal, you're going to get smacked, And there were guys up there every day, slinging lead with each other with the bad guys, you're right, man. They're out there, they're doing it, and they're living in some hardcore conditions, and it sucks. But on one hand, I kind of live for that, man.
Right.
Cool,
Right. Of course you do.
Yeah, Dale, as I recall, you retired from the Army like just before 9/11. And I don't think there's any way that a dude like you was going to miss the war on terror. You did find a way, of course, obviously, to deal your way into the action. I remember you once telling me that you actually went out on ops by yourself a few times with an Indige, which I thought was pretty cool. What was this experience like? I guess we're going to say OGA. What was that like by comparison to your military experience?
I want to say it was better.